Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to transition. We have one special person here, and that's Nick Egnatz. Oh, here you go. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Nick, hi, Nick. I would like, I'm going to give one, this is the introduction I'm going to give. Nick
Okay.
Egnatz is close to AFJM and AMI. And for AMI, he's become a trustee. And so in some sense, I work for Nick now. But what I want to say, though, is I tend to be quite diplomatic, if you notice in the Rossi interview or with other people. And Nick gets out his little stick and pokes and gets straight to the need act. And I'm sure Zarlanga has a big smile for Nick. So thank you. And Nick is Occupy Wall Street, a solid person, a peace person, a person who wants to put love forward rather than greed in lots and lots of ways. Nick, you have the floor, and we look forward to hearing about 3 books instead of 1 now.
Well, we'll
And-
just
and
thank
other things.
Stephen, thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for all the work that you're doing for the American Monetary Institute. And just a little bit on my background. I had a normal life like lots of different people. I served in the Vietnam War. And it was only after I came back that I realized that maybe that was a huge mistake that we made going into war then. And maybe the real heroes were the ones that went up to Canada to see our friends Jeff and Joe, who just gave a great talk. But anyway, when we started beating the war drums after the 9/11 attack for Afghanistan and Iraq, I became involved in the anti-war movement. And I still remain involved and an advocate for peace, if at all possible, in any kind of a military situation. But that activism led me to a concept called social justice, which I'd never heard of before, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was. And as I advocated for anti-war, peace, and social justice, I stumbled across this thing about our money system, about how our money is created. When I first read it, it was created by banks. I just couldn't believe it. And that's how I got started. The first book I read was Ellen Brown's Web of Debt, which I found to be really a wonderful book. Her final, her solution to the state banks doesn't go far enough as far as as that goes, but that's it was still a wonderful book. And then I got involved with Stephen Zarlinga and the American Monetary Institute, and I could see that it was not only enough to be a critic of the system of bank created money, but there was a way to move forward with what I like to call in the book anyway, publicly created money. A just system of sovereign, publicly created money. And so anyway, that's kind of my background. And before we get started, we just had a wonderful presentation from two gentlemen from Canada. And Money Creation 101 is the name of the book that I'm should be releasing within the next month. And it's written from an American perspective. This in no way is meant to denigrate other countries, people from other countries. But America has claimed leadership role for everything in the world, basically for democratic governance. We're the best, that's what we say. So as such, it's responsibility of America to lead the world away from the present bank-created debt money system. We appreciate all the help we can get from everybody else, but it's our job to do this. It's a system of despots and tyrants, and we want to get a just system of sovereign publicly created money. So the first book that will be released is called Money Creation 101. Money is the one essential thing we all need to simply survive in modern society. Of course, we need clean air and water and also food, shelter, and clothing, but we use money to get these things. Since money is the one absolutely necessary thing that we all need, doesn't it follow that in a democracy, we must understand who creates this and how they create it? Most of us have a basic understanding that one, our government creates our money. Two, banks only loan money that already exists. And three, the Federal Reserve System in the United States is part of the US government. We think these things are true because intuitively our common sense tells us they should be true. Actually, none of them are true. Number one, our government only creates a tiny sliver of our money. Two, banks only loan money that they create out of thin air when they make a loan. And this bank created debt money system makes up almost the entirety of the money supply that fuels our economy and our lives. Three, the Federal Reserve System is independent of the US government, and all 12 Federal Reserve banks are 100% owned by the private banks in their district. Money Creation 101 explains who creates our money, banks, how they create it out of thin air, in terms that we can all understand. The banks can only create this money because all the other banks are doing exactly the same thing, and the Federal Reserve System is there to oversee the process. The book also takes to task the majority of economics professionals that have been content to sit silently on the sidelines, while those that hold the power to create our money have used disinformation and outright lies to keep us from understanding their fraudulent system. When truthful articles and research have managed to surface, the economic professionals that have refused to examine and vigorously debate them should all be ashamed of themselves. Money Creation 101 does not advocate for an unjust, immoral, secretive system of private bank-created debt money. No, we already have that system. Instead, Money Creation 101 advocates for a just, moral, transparent system of publicly created money that is created debt-free for the needs of the nation and its people as determined by our Congress. The just system of publicly created money that we support was put into Congress in 2011 as the NEED Act. It is ready to go legislation that can easily be updated for 2022. And in fact, the Alliance for Just Money has done just that with the American Monetary Reform Act of 2022. The NEED Act has been vetted by top economists that found it would be a much better control of business cycle fluctuations that cause recessions and depressions. It would eliminate bank runs and dramatically reduce both the public and private debt. Plus, it will do all this with zero inflation. This from Michael Kumhoff and Jeremy Bennis's paper, The Chicago Plan Revisited, published in 2012 by the International Monetary Fund. It was a working paper for them. If you're looking for a solution to the multitude of problems and crises we face, Money Creation 101 is the place to get started. Actually, the solution will be in the third book, but let's get started with Money Creation 101. It's not a textbook that only economists can understand. Instead, it is written for all of us to understand. But why is Money Creation 101 a book that you should read? Because in 2018, a 15-year-old girl in Sweden, Greta Thunberg, took it upon herself to skip school and stand outside Parliament with a sign that read, "School strike for climate." Because in the United States, before the COVID pandemic hit, almost half of the American people had no net worth. Because in the United States today, the federal debt is $30.9 trillion. And within our present bank-created debt money system, it is absolutely impossible to repay it. And some people think repayment of the national debt should be done. And this can be done with a system of just, sovereign, publicly created money. Because the nation's top business forecaster, McKinsey, predicts that artificial intelligence will replace 36 million American jobs by the year 2030. Of course, new jobs will be created, but no one can say that enough new ones will be created to replace the old ones. More than 50 years ago, I was in an Econ 101 classroom, probably dozing off or looking out the window. And the instructor said, well, we're coming to the chapter on the Federal Reserve System, but we're going to skip the chapter. And of course, all the students were very happy, along with me, because we're skipping the chapter because there are only a few people in the country that are smart enough to understand how the Federal Reserve functions and how it creates money. My take on it now, 50 some years later, is there is something drastically wrong with a money system we are told is too complicated for us to understand. What is the most important thing in modern society? The one thing we need to simply survive: money. And if so, should we not know who creates the money and how they do it? Well, I use plain language today and in Money Creation 101. I also provide corroborating evidence from experts for all positions taken. Money Creation 101 actually started as a larger project than just this one. I've been working on it for 2.5 years, even a little more than that. And only recently came to the conclusion that since it's an effort to educate ordinary citizens on our present money system and a more democratic alternative, I needed to put my efforts into 3 shorter books and not one big scary one that would scare away beginners. Money Creation 101 is the first book in that series. It answers the question that we skipped in that Econ 101 class 50 some years ago: who creates our money and how they create it? When I was through with the first draft of my book, I sent it to 7 different beta readers. These are readers, people that agree to read your book that you don't know, not your friends, but other people that are trying to get into writing themselves. And they read the book and they'll answer questions that you give them, and they'll give you a criticism of it. And they give you a real criticism too. The biggest thing that at least the part that we're getting into here, they wanted me to provide insights and explanations from economics professors that disagreed with me. I'd already done this and was ignored, but I didn't put it in the book. I'd already reached out to economic professors. They didn't want to talk about it. So anyway, I sent another email to more than 100 economic professors at both the nation's top-rated universities and local universities here. I got 2 answers to how our money is created. And there's a chapter in the book on this. Professors A and B. So Professor A, how is our money created, said, my best guess though is fractional reserve lending. And it didn't even strike me at first when I read the answer from him. I said, oh, he's for fractional reserve lending. And it was only after I looked at it for a while, he's guessing. He doesn't even know. And this is one of he was a chair of his department in one of the absolute top schools in the country, one of the most distinguished economic professors in the world, and he can only say it was his best guess that money is created through fractional reserve lending. Now, Professor B took a little different tack. He didn't give a specific answer. He gave some kind of wisecracks and things, but he's the professor and I'm just a 2-time college dropout. But he provided a link to an article written by an economist that referenced the Federal Reserve creating money out of thin air by buying toxic assets from banks during the COVID crisis. Of course this happened. But Professor B and the article's author had no answer about the creation of money by banks in normal day-to-day lending activity. And both Professor A and B chose to be interviewed anonymously, and I've kept that promise. I also twice sent emails to Federal Reserve economists about money creation. One was gracious enough to answer, but when it came to answering how our money is created, he said he would have to ask the Federal Reserve's Public Relations Department to respond to me. I'm still waiting for their response. Although I did not promise this economist confidentiality, I truly fear that if I named him, it could very well cost him his job. Within Money Creation 101, we make some big claims. In chapter 1, I think the end of chapter 1. There's a list here. The money power 7 tactics to stay in power. The money power, who's the money power? It's the people that are creating our money right now and that profit from it. The first line of defense and those that prop them up. The first line of defense used to ensure the continuation of a toxic money system is to keep the people confused and in the dark about the present system of bank-created debt money and the democratic alternative, publicly created money. Confusion. The second line of defense is to tell us we are too stupid to understand it. They demean us. The third line of defense is to create textbooks that lie to us about how our money is created. They lie to us. The fourth line of defense is to stop teaching monetary history, even in the most prestigious economics programs. They ignore history. And I went through the course catalogs that I could get online for the top 3 programs in the country. If memory serves me correctly, it's Harvard, MIT, and Stanford. I can't remember the exact number of economics programs within there, within the 3 universities. It was 400 and some, like 467. I don't remember the exact number. Anyway, 400 and some, and not a single one of them in the title said anything about history, money, or monetary history. They ignore history. The fifth line of defense is to simply ignore papers critical of the debt money system or supportive of publicly created money. They shun us. This is a form of abuse. The sixth line of defense is to control economics journals so that we will not publish, so that they will, we will not, they're the ones publishing them, so that they will not publish papers critical of the debt money system or supportive of publicly created money. They control published thought. The seventh line of defense is to make it clear to up-and-coming young economists that for them to buck the debt money system is career suicide. Career suicide if you're a young economist and you want to join us. This is what we're up against. These are the tactics of the money power within the bank-created debt money system. And while some of these claims may sound like exaggerations, ample evidence is given for all of them in Money Creation 101. Now I would like to talk a little bit about what money is. Leading up to the 1913 creation of the Federal Reserve System, there was a National Monetary Commission. Historian Alexander Del Mar commented that the commission, this National Monetary Commission, was prolific to a fault, writing 24 volumes on money without bothering to define it. We'll define it here. Founding director of the American Monetary Institute, Stephen Zarlinga, he had confided to me years ago that when he began his deep research into money, he believed money was gold or should be gold. But when his research showed otherwise, he had the good sense to follow his research. First and foremost, money is power, perhaps the greatest power in modern society. One could argue that democracy is or should be a greater power than money. But as the United States and indeed many of the world's other great nations struggle to keep some level of democracy, money's power is that much more important. Everyone's heard the term fiat money. It is not used as a term of endearment. Rather, it's hurled at us as a pejorative. Fiat money as if it is something to be despised. What does the word fiat mean? It simply means an order of the state's legal system, the creation of the state's legal system. Why would people despise what their legal system produces? It should be celebrated instead, an invention of society's legal system. Fiat money is a good thing. Money is not something that is dug out of the ground, such as gold or silver. That's what the present bank-created debt money system was originally based on. Slaves digging the gold and silver out of the ground. Bank-created debt money has its roots in human slavery, and today it delivers debt slavery to the people. Rather, money is something that humanity throughout history has used its collective intelligence to create, so that we can work and live together as a society. Money systems of gold and silver depended on slavery to dig the money out of the ground. Money as gold or silver is a system of despots and slavery. Instead, money should be a creation of the law, representing the best of society, not the worst. So money is a power like no other, an abstract legal power of the state that acts as a unit of measure, a store of value, and a final means of payment. Money is the lubricant that allows society to function. Money is our nation's lifeblood. I have a website now, and it's called nickegnatz.com. It's really still under construction, but you can. It's up enough that you can go to nickegnatz.com. You can leave your email address. There's a place there where everybody can leave their email address. And as soon as Money Creation 101 comes out and the other books, following books come out, I'll be able to send you an email, let you know where you can get it. And anyway, then you can, you're able to read them all. So I thank you very much for the pleasure of being able to appear here and make this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. And that was clear and straightforward and from the heart. Let's see who has questions, thoughts, questions.
You know what, Stephen? Could I take a break for just maybe like two minutes while everybody gets all their questions to get together for me? But I've got to make a quick pit stop. Thank you.
No problem. Take your. We could, one idea is we can almost get into social hour mode, and but we can also gather some questions. So we'll take questions first and then move forward. Are you ready, John?
Sure. I'm just interested in what his plans are for volumes 2 and 3. So when he comes back, we can ask him that.
Yeah, I was wondering about volume 2 too. Yeah, you could give us that. I'm already.
I kind of thought I wasn't going to be interested in his presentation, but it was absolutely wonderfully done and engaging. So even though it's all stuff I've heard before, he did it in a way that made it really wonderful to listen to.
Yeah. I had to do some tech things, but I'll take time later to get to it. I get the, we're getting towards the end. I can relax. Well, I can just do the regular old work, but it'll we should be thinking about the future, though. We still got a lot to do. And, but we'll get organized and get things done.
I think all of us feel indebted to you, Steve, for the wonderful job that you and Alfonso and Covert have done in pulling this together and making it possible for us to hear all this good stuff and participate in the discussions.
Well, it's a good labor of love, and whatever I do, I'm buoyed by people around me. So I'm in appreciation of all of you, and I consider you all on the AMI team. So thank you for that. And John, you want to ask the question now of Nick, and then we'll go to Janice.
Yeah, Nick, my question is, you've told us very nicely about the first book, but it leaves us in suspense. What are your plans for 2 and 3?
Book two is History of Money, and my wife thought that should be book 1. Sequencing of things when you're dealing with so many, explaining this money system and another money system, the one we're proposing, and then trying to justify it, provide all this evidence and everything, and then the whole history of money. And when I first wrote a first draft of the book that I sent out to the beta readers, and then I sent it out to a developmental editor, Morgan Day, just wonderful. And anyway, it was hard to figure it out. And she was the one that came up with this separation. At first it was to be 3 parts, but well, the 3 parts ended up being 3 different books. The first book is Money Creation 101, which is a takeoff on the Econ 101 classroom that I was sitting in when we were told that we weren't smart enough to understand the money system. And then the second one is History of Money. And the third one, which we go all the way back to the Fertile Crescent for the history of money, Greece, Rome, the colonies. And one of the takeaways I got when I was doing all the research for it is that that our history, the history of America is a search for a system of just, sovereign, publicly created money. It's been that search, and the founders and some of them got a little better grasp of what money was and everything like that, but they just couldn't get past that concept that, well, it's got to be backed by gold, you know what I mean? And throughout our country, just the whole history of it is a search for that kind of a system, and we're playing our role right now, and hopefully we'll be effective. And the third one is Spaceship Earth, and Spaceship Earth is where we talk about a lot of this stuff that a lot of the other people have gotten into, the economic system, the political system of our country, and some of the things that we could do with this publicly created money. So 1 and 2 are done. They've got a little bit of editing and proofreading and stuff like that. So I should have, 1 should be out within a month, I think, and then I think we're going to wait about 3 months to release book 2. And I'm going to be working on, the other one's already written, but I'm just changing some things. Maybe I've got some ideas from this.
Just a thought, I'm going to turn it over to Janice, and we need to save some time for the social hour too at this point. But Nick, Bob Petit was more of a sort of on the legal scholar side, but he was also writing a history, and when he died, and that work is unpublished. And I think his writing is about 100 and a few pages. I know John Howell, I wrote a piece, and and Jamie wrote a piece, and the editing we've had done on it was problematic for Jamie's piece because I think it was too modern or it was too up to date and too complicated for the editor to figure out the need act at that point. And I wasn't a part of things then, and I've talked to John a little bit about this, but it would be a lovely gift in Petit's memory and a follow-up to Zarlenga if maybe you could review that while you're reviewing everything else and just maybe if you have any imaginative thought.
Well, I would be glad to, but not right now.
Okay,
Soon.
we'll
Yeah.
leave you on a break period. Janice, please.
Hi, so since we're about to go into social hour, I'm giving a light but heavy comment at the same time. My astrologers say that any minute now, the stock market could crash again and we're going to be repeating 2008. The reason they say that is we're in exactly the same planetary configuration as was in August, September, and October of 2008. And the planetary influences, which I know nothing about, I'm a brand newbie to this, but I'm just listening and I trust the lady I'm listening to. And so here we go. So my cool and dark thing to say is, if this is true, yay. The dark thing is, oh, too bad. It's going to be very chaotic. And, you know, imagine going through 2008 again. But the good news is we've got stuff ready right now. So get ready to talk to your congressman immediately. So this is a call to action just in case. So I just thought we'd all enjoy the humor of that. And if there is any credibility to it, hey, let's just be ready.
I actually spent part of Friday night with my congressman.
Good. Well, you know, whoever's going to save us this time, we're not putting $5 trillion in the banks of the pockets of the bankers again. So it's going to have to be something new and that's going to actually work for us. And this could be it. So thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Well, let's officially start the happy hour. My glass is empty, but right now, but I might pull out a beer, who knows, but
Well, you know what? I think I'll pull one out too.
yeah.
Very little, but I'm going to have a beer tonight. Everybody can go get their beer.
Well,
I have my hand raised.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's okay. I would just like to take, 5 seconds or so to share an interesting meme with everybody, if I can share my screen quickly.
Oh, okay, hang on, you can handle that.
Okay.
Actually,
You should
I'm
now have access to screen sharing.
yeah. I thought I thought I was given more status to be able to help with that, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. It's not part of your job description, right? Okay.
No, it is. There's nothing that's not part of that job description.
Okay. Do you see that okay?
yes.
Okay. I just
Yeah,
kind of
good
thought,
one, Rita.
I kind of thought that kind of fit in with Bruce Rogers Vaughn explanation or information. Yeah, I thought of that and I knew I had this sitting around somewhere, so I thought I'd share it.
It's a beautiful picture and what might be some different meanings, I'm wondering? Is the light coming towards her or is the light going from her finger away? It could,
I've-
you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so it could be either way, I know, but
Yeah. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about that.
well, you can see it's a time-lapse picture, maybe not of the lady, but of the stars because of the lap of their movement across the sky.
Mhm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful. You know, Steve,
yes.
Lucille sent a little note out critiquing me, and she's a professor, she's entitled to. But money is not power. The people that create money, it's the power to create money that's the power, not just the money itself. And I would say that the power to create money is the ultimate power. But if you get some of that money, you still have some power too. And that's a little bit, you know, I use the term money power a couple times in the talk and throughout the book, and referring to the people that have the power to create money. So I stand corrected. Oh, Lucille, is she there? I don't know.
No, I don't see her. I was gonna
Anyway,
follow
she
up with that.
Yeah, she's
in
here.
the chat. And anyway, you know, one of the things I do is I explain Paul Samuelson's economics, and Paul Samuelson comes from, you know, like 10 miles from my house or something or other, Gary, Indiana, where he's from. And I don't critique his book, but I let Richard Warner critique his book in Money Creation. And where was I with Samuelson? I forgot about. I didn't even have a beer. Anyway,
Yeah.
maybe they'll come back to me during happy hour.
Yeah, I think
I
we
know
all
what
need
it
to
was. I know what it was. In the book, I, you know, talking about Samuelson and everything, and I mentioned that I dropped out of college twice. And then I kind of at the end said, I wonder what kind of grade he would have given me, Paul Samuelson. So I'm asking what kind of grade I get from you.
Well,
I said, okay, 2 thumbs up. Thank you.
Stephen or Fernanda, my chat has been disabled. Could you please enable my chat? And maybe others have that problem, I don't know. But I think we want everybody's chat enabled, no?
yeah, I
Yes.
don't,
That would be
Thank you.
helpful. Mine is,
Especially for happy
Yeah.
hour. Thank you.
the whole conference, it's only been co-hosts, I think, who were enabled.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a setting and how it was set up.
yeah, I know if it was, that we would be in problems some, but I
Mhm.
think the chat is a,
Yes, the chat is now available and everyone can message everyone. Sorry, it was only to the host and co-host during the conference, but now everyone can message everyone.
thank you, Alfonso. Thank you.
someday Alfonso's gonna teach me those tricks. Go ahead, John.
well, I've already spoken. Oscar had his hand up.
Okay. Oscar, please go ahead. Take your time.
Thank you. Nick, you said, you repeat, money is power. I have thought a lot about that. Money is power, but it's not a constant power. It's power of the issuer, it's power of the people who bring the money, is power, is an amount of power is different if you say $20, $100. It's a measure of power in certain circumstances, or perhaps it's the only magnitude that that measure powers. But it's not a magnitude like the volume of liquids that is constant, of the energy or the matter that is constant and transferable. But the situation in which the transactions of the sell, when you sell or buy, the seller and buyer have relative power, and that $20 bill is not the same in every circumstance. I ask you to say something about these reflections.
Yeah, I think that's a good, I think that's a good point, Oscar. And I really am thankful that Lucille brought that up. And I stand corrected. The power to create money is a power like no other. That's what it is. We all have our bank accounts, checking accounts, pennies in our pocket or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But the power to create money, and that's what we're talking about. And when I say money is the power, that's what I'm referring to, is this power to create money that that is presently held by a private entity, the private banks, and it belongs to the people. In the United States, that's through the Constitution. It belongs to the people through our elected government and through our Congress. That's where that power belongs. You can't give it away to anybody else. Historically, it has been the right of the sovereign, the emperor, the king, whatever, and that queen in some respects, I guess. So that's where it historically has been. And in the United States, we got rid of King George from England, and with our revolution, and we developed our Constitution and our legal government, and that's where the power should reside, with the people through our democratic government. And thank you for bringing that up, because that is an important point. When I say money is power, I don't mean like if you got $100 in your pocket or 1,000 or $1 million in the bank or whatever. It gives you some power. It gives you the ability to live, because if you don't have money, then you can't live in society. If you have no money at all, you can't live in society other than a beggar on the street. And then you have to beg it from somebody else. So that's when I say it is the most necessary thing in our society. And if you're talking about clean air, water, food, shelter, or clothing, they all come from money.
You said
We can't have clean air because it costs too much. We can't have clean environment.
You said it's necessary to have some power to remain alive. In the form of money.
Right, in our society. And years ago, before we have almost 8 billion people in the world, I guess, and we have to really consider this may be too many, or certainly we don't need a lot more people, because the earth can't hold that many in a responsible manner, so that we can take care of the earth as it needs to be taken care of. But okay, years ago, centuries ago, people could go out in the wilderness and basically live by themselves off of the wilderness. Well, there isn't enough wilderness for more than a handful of us to do that. And that's all around the world.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Oscar. And
thank you, Oscar.
I
want to say one thing.
Wait, Nick. We only have 30 minutes, and we have 30 people, just a little less than 30 people, and some people have talked a lot. Now, it was but I want, so we got a few people here, and you know what? That conversation can go on quite a while. I see a lot of back and forth potential there, and I'm going to bring in a new person. Eric, if you could please, I'm going to ask you to unmute there, Sir Joy. And let's see if we can get a new word from people who haven't spoken.
I'm all for that.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to just briefly share a couple of things. One is with underlying basic root causes of the need to reform the monetary system. And those I see as being the qualities of fear, ego, power, control, greed, which has already been mentioned, and war. And I think to be successful in this, we have to be aware of these things and be somehow engaging and nurturing and those that are looking into these sorts of things, getting that sort of information out also. There's one other thing I'd like to mention, and this comes from experience to extended times of our young family a couple decades ago with the Hopi elders in Arizona. Hopi means peace or people of peace. The longest continuously inhabited village in North America is at Hopi. And Grandfather David had us take him to a gathering that turned out to be a gathering of indigenous spiritual folk people from North, Central, and South America. And he was the elder. One of us that were with him had to be with him all the time. We were in the center of all of it. And the significant piece that came out of there was a call for what they call the spiritual unification of the Americas. And they say we're in a huge transition now from the fourth world to the fifth world. And these things are thousands of years old. They know the history of the worlds before this. They're passed on and on and on for thousands of years, actually. So there's two things about this spiritual unification that I wanted to mention. Let's see, the one comes right to hand. And this was great for me to realize. What sees us through these times are the way we're able to go into this spiritual unification thing. And there's two basic foundations to it. One of them is at this time, the need for humanity to be coming together in circles and sharing deeply and to come up with solutions that we all understand. And this weekend, from my point of view, we have been doing just that. And that's very encouraging for me.
Eric, can you tell this group, and by the way, Eric was a friend of Zarlenga too. And could you tell this group though, how that unification worked? And could you tell them about the experience of the altar?
Oh, yes. Okay, the way that it works, also, I'm a part of the Religious Society of Friends, and Native people talk about using council. And again, it's where we're learning and growing, helping each other learn and grow and coming together. And Friends, the way they make decisions is by the same thing, being quiet, bringing things out, learning and growing. Now, the most graphic example of this is something that Stephen just mentioned. As this gathering was coming together, there was a large circle, cooking stuff was on one side, camping around this large circle. And in the very center, there was earth that was kind of stacked up. So it was a little higher, I don't know, maybe 4 feet by 4 feet, and it was called the altar. And as the different tribal people came in, the different Native people came in, there would be all sorts of things placed on this altar, things from buffalo skulls to crystals, pipes, just all of the symbolic things were placed on this altar. And what happened was along the way, halfway, maybe a little further, it turned out that the Aztec representatives weren't coming out. They were one of the groups that was actually staying someplace off right where most of us were camped and where this description of the circle that I just mentioned was. And apparently at some point, someone had asked them to remove an altarpiece and they didn't feel like they were welcome or something, and they disappeared for a while, and eventually their absence was recognized and they were invited. People went out, found them, and to encourage them to come back. And apparently in asking to, they told a story about this altarpiece that was removed. Up until this time, they had been making tremendous contributions through students of Takayelel, the Aztec elder that was there. After this thing where they came back on the Saturday morning, the day before the gathering was over, Takayelel spoke directly himself. And what he said was the first thing we should be doing when we're coming together like this is share the symbology of our altar pieces. So we all understand what each thing is symbolic of, or the teachings that come along with it, or whatever. And then what he said after that, he said, once we are able to do that, we'll be living in a different reality. So it's, I'll just mention it again, what's happened this weekend and the way I see these, you people, us people coming together and sharing the way we are, we're contributing to what's necessary to see humanity through these challenging times that we're now experiencing. So thank you. Thank you all, you organizers and participants and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And we'll talk more too. Other people, I'm going to go to Roger, Mike, Don, Tabitha,
No, out
Ron,
of there.
Peter. Well, okay, let's go to Fernanda, and then we'll go.
Okay.
We got some new people, so that's nice. Fernanda.
Wow, this was a great conference. Sorry, we've got the echo, so let me just fix that. Thanks to all the speakers and for bringing your whole entire vulnerable selves to the conference. I've been in a couple of long conferences recently. I also had the pleasure of joining the Emerging and Evolving Economics jam session, and I wanted to bring some of those facilitator ideas into our group because they were very, very enriching for the 30 or so participants that were on the call. And so there's a couple of activities we could do as we jump into the social hour. I was thinking maybe we could do like a show and tell, sharing something that is very valuable to us, and you can interpret that in whatever shape or form you interpret value to be, either monetary or sentimental. So just a couple thoughts, and I'll just kind of like let those thoughts simmer and pass it on to the next speaker, and then you can come back to me. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just jump in. Part of the altar that Eric was talking about was there's a lot of different groups there, and each group brought something sacred for themselves, something that represented them, that was important to them. And each one put that important piece of themselves onto that altar. And when that altar was filled up, it represented a unification and a sisterhood, a brotherhood between them. And it was to bring everyone together so that they could hear each other better and things like that. Young Kim, your turn.
Thank you. I like the words that money is blood for our nation's life. And money is handled by many institutions. First of all, from the creator, the central bank or the treasury, and the commercial banks, and even the paycheck discounters. Many people are handling this money. The nation's criminal law says that the counterfeiting is prohibited. Is it destroying money is allowed or prohibited? If you are very rich, you can burn 10,000 US dollar bill, burn out. Is it allowed or it's punished?
It's punishment.
Yeah. So same as we need to bring the whole money system including the central bank money and the cash in our pocket, and also the the commercial bank money. As long as we can call the money as a way of payment or legal tender, treat it as a legal tender, it must be protected by criminal law, must be treated as the very strictly. Nobody can destroy it. Nobody can freely make it. We should spread that idea through population, through the whole population. It's so simple. As long as you could call it money, it should be public or belong to the sovereign. So anybody who handles money is partly the agency of our sovereign, which agency should subordinate to us, the people, right?
Mhm.
So any institute don't matter whether it is a public institution or private institution, as long as they handle money, they should act as public agent.
That's interesting, Young Kim, because you also said another thing. Young Kim mentioned, I think it might have been in a breakout group, that if there's so much US money that's earned in other places, as Oscar mentioned, say in Mexico. And so people who have US money, that's like a form of US dollar citizenship.
Yes.
And so there is that. And I'm wondering if all people be considered as public agents. When Fernanda talked about a value, I'd like, we could, maybe a value we could have is that money to be thoughtful as public, and it's also citizenship, maybe together in some way.
Thank you. Yeah. That's my idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Young Kim.
That brings up an interesting,
Profound.
can I talk or not? Am I muted?
No, yeah, I think someone just talked in the background, that's all, Nick.
Okay, well, they're talking about destroying money being against the law that Young Kim brought up. And when we consider that the banks, when we repay the loans that they've created out of thin air when they loan us the money and we repay it, they destroy that money. And what that brings up is an interesting situation. I remember that we had a discussion at one of the AMI meetings that took place in Chicago maybe like 10 years ago. And there was a little discussion between a couple of economists whether that was really money, the bank money that we use. And Zarlenga walked up to the front finally and took the microphone and said, it's what we use for money. That's not really money. This bank money stuff that they create out of thin air and they destroy when we repay it, it's not really money. It's what we use for money, because we don't have a real money system. A real money system would be a sovereign system which isn't created and destroyed every time it's used. It would be a money system that was created, spent into existence, and it would remain in the economy.
So we need to transform that whole money system. Everybody handling money, yes, transformed as public.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, we got the next thing. I'll be right back.
Stephen,
Yes,
last night I sent you an email. I wrote some English article in WordPress, my own personal domain.
you did, you published something and it's I don't know if it was a longer article than what you shared, but I passed it on to Tabitha and Hobart to include it as something we should study and look into. So it went into the study stack.
There are only 4 or 5 articles, relatively short articles.
Okay, I didn't get all of those. I just saw part of one and I was thinking I had to join the website to see the rest of the parts. But something quick there, but let's go on to another person. We have Mike who hasn't spoken all very little. So Mike, please, Mike Holden, Pal, could you say something? I think Mike is good. Mike? Mike Holden, pal, friend, anyhow. So while Mike's getting ready, young Kim, so you mentioned there were several articles. Did you send me several articles?
No, if you open my link, then you can figure out the articles that.
Okay, I look forward to that. And if it's open to other people, I'm going to put your articles on a
One
study.
thing that I mentioned is that the US dollar reform is we need to print out a new dollar bill, to replace the current dollars. Nobody says about that.
Yeah. Steven Zarlenga made that a point. It should not say Federal Reserve note anymore. Yes. Well, let's ask Mike to unmute. And he actually has a dog. The dog name is Bert, and Bert may had to have gone taking care of his dog Bert. Anybody else? Peter, Ron, Roger.
Hear me now?
Yes, we're hearing somebody.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm having some issues with my phone. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But anyways, thank you so much for the excellent content here over the course of the weekend. And I very much appreciated Lucille opening the event and her comments. She talked about the agreement that we make, as a society, and the Russellian social contract, as it were, is really kind of more like a slavery contract today, because it's debt bondage that's inescapable. And so I think that with regards to the talk about money being power. Money is power. It gives you the power to do things. And I think that understanding that the mechanism of creation of money is something entirely different, because really wealth comes before money. Money is useless without the physical objects. So money is only a means to an end, which is the wealth, the physical good or service. And so I think that understanding power dynamics, going to Bruce Rogers Vaughn talk, which I thought was stellar information, great content. Bruce squared, very, very good information. But I see neoliberalism as being an outgrowth of historical power relations. Really, it's the dominator ideology at work. And I do think that love is the correct antidote to that, because when we care about one another, then we are not seeking to exploit. And so I think everything that was said here today is right on point. So once again, thank you very much. And I'm going to go on mute now.
Now, Mike, one thing I have to check, I just had not enough beer that I can get away saying this. I want to talk to Bert and see if he's been, how he feels about that too.
You're gonna have a little bit of a difficulty with that at the moment. I'm on my bike right now, so.
Okay, good for you. Well, good riding. Hey, it's cold up there too.
Yeah, it's a little
And
chilly.
Bert is his dog, and I'm not even allowed to have dogs at my house, but Mike was on his way to Detroit, so he spent the night here, and I got to take care of his dog, and we had a good time all together. And so, oh, I was gonna mention something too. It'll come to me. Next person. Who can we sneak on? Luciano.
Hello.
Say something to us, Luciano. Habla con nosotros.
Yes, well, I wanted to talk before, but it was too long, and I decided to write an email because in the morning was very nice. But you know, it's like to talk about these issues is long. So the conference was amazing, honestly, incredible. You know, I don't know why. Maybe you don't want to believe me, but it's going to happen. The people is going to help as well. You know, I wanted to show you. They are like the opposite of us, and they say, I don't know if you can read it. You can read it.
Yeah. We carry the world on our shoulders.
Everybody wants to help, but the solution is this, no? Money and the interest. And I think that maybe a little in the communication, have to focus a little in the interest, not only the money. And nobody have an answer, and you have it, and it's going to happen because it's automatically that is destroying everything. And just to be, you have to be ready. I listen, know the law that you are writing, and I agree with the comment of the Spanish college, that is JM, I used to say, Manuel, that I think that maybe it's not very, very important to have a perfect, very perfect reform or transform, because that is democracy, no? It is important to be ready to push it in the proper moment, and I think that is now a very sound. And you have a lot, and for that reason, I'm very grateful of your job and your work, because you have an answer, but you have.
We have answers, and your communication is a little, I mean, the internet is a little off for you right now, Luciano. Oh, you're back again.
No, sorry. No, that's all that you are leading the movement. You are doing a very, very, very important work. So just, it's going to happen, okay?
Yeah, but
It's going to happen.
Thank you. But we want to see it happening in Argentina and all the countries, and we want to be able to see Venezuela to get out of its troubles, and we want to, as Cuba has supported many people with hurricane and doctors in different times, we would like to see Cuba taking care of it. Had to go through its own power outage with Eon, and so we have many challenges, so we've got to be linked like a fabric together.
Yeah,
so we support each other all the time in every way.
Just the other day, Mari showed me a video about, I think, the president and the vice president. That was very nice, Mari. I saw. Well, he's talking about democratize. I don't know the word in English. Democratize things. Maybe he could be interesting. And here in Argentina, I sent a couple of letters, and I will call them. And of course, now I will start every day. I was like just moving, now the conference. Maybe if I'm not the proper person, I will focus in the idea, because it's idea, not the person who push it. Well, that's all is going to happen. That is something that is 100% secure. Okay.
Well, it happens with you too, Luciano, and you need to be near the front too.
Sometimes I don't want to belong, but sometimes I think how I met you, all of you, and I don't remember. It was a colorful moment, but you are right. Sometimes I think if I was born for this, the only thing that I want is that things change for my life, a common life. Sometimes, because it's power, the money creation, how you want to say, all the people who have to interact, they are looking for their own power, because politicians are a little, it's like in the human nature. This is what I really want, is that you say, this is for you, but just stay there. I don't want any place. It's your place. Just change it. And that's all. I don't want to talk too much, but this morning was very nice, because it was another aspect. Maybe in the future, I would like to work with a small space for the nature, more developed, with some people that is in another area, to show what is happening, more detailed, and to be more complete. This is the only one aspect, but I think that is the way. That's all. Thanks, Stephen, honestly. To you, to God, to everyone. And Mary, to you as well.
Right.
You are incredible.
Okay. Thank you, Luciano. Compadre, gracias. And somebody new. Do we got a Roger, a Ron, a Joe? Peter came off. Peter, if you're there, if you want to
How do you spell Portuguese?
How do you what? I'm gonna mute that. Okay. Anybody else? Peter, Rita, Lucille, you want to give a summation if you're around?
Mary Sanderson, say something.
Oh, okay. Good job, Oscar. You're right. We want a personal touch from Mary.
Almost at the end.
I want to say how grateful I am for the for the conference inviting the Democratizar group, and for the wonderful presentations that Oscar and Jesus Manuel gave us yesterday. There were technical difficulties. It's all a big experiment, what we do all the time. But I hope that Oscar is one half as happy with his experience in this conference as I am with having you and Luciano and Jesus Manuel here. That was a big part of it for me, because I worked on that part. But Stephen and Lucille and Nick and everybody who worked on it, I can't say enough how much I appreciated this conference. I'm very eager to repeat some of the presentations as soon as they're up online. They can't be up too fast.
Thank you, Mary. yeah, I'm very grateful for Democratizar El Dinero, and I look forward to your imaginations and how we can increase that next year, and maybe someday to have a special Democratizar El Dinero conference too. So we should dream and keep pushing. Vivimos en esperanza. We live in hope. We keep pushing though.
But
So,
sorry, I put like a small picture. You can see it later. That is a Pansky, I don't know how do you say in English, Principito, maybe you know, Ari. And it's about, well, that is like the heart going out and the hope. You can start, you always can start again. So that's all. You can see it later.
thank you. I'm gonna, okay, bye-bye. I'm gonna cheat and just answer Alfonso. Yeah, I'll start downloading Friday and Saturdays into my computer tonight and tomorrow. So it'll keep me busy for a little bit. Okay. Oh, thanks, Alfonso. And I'm just going through messages here. Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm sorry. That message was a long one ago.
While you're looking, I'll just say a shout out to thank so very deeply Alfonso as well as Fernanda for your presence, for your backbone of this conference, and having you there, especially Alfonso, all your tech work is so comforting. It's so such a backbone. And I just thank you for being you, for being here, for having Stephen's back, and Stephen, your immense belief in AMI, your carrying on Stephen's legacy, your sense of support and affirmation for every single other steward, so-called steward of AMI. You never lose your temper, you never complain, and it's hugely difficult and so commendable. So thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Alfonso, and thank you, Fernanda.
Thank you, Lucio. I'll say a word about that word steward. In Native, getting away from directors and corporate type of organization, I wanted to work towards Native American organization, and under Navajo and Eskimo influence, I'm going to show a cover of a book. This is a Navajo kinship book. I've had this for like 30, 40 years as part of my anthropology stuff, but Navajo kinship systems. And it's a beautiful book about decision-making in a Native American community and a lot of other things, but just a page or so on that. But it brings in, oh, I can make, someone gave me a big screen there. Anyhow, it brings in Native American caring values. And so when I was in my community in Alaska there's too much to almost say. It's just so completely different from competition. Native American values support there's a huge emphasis on getting along and being supportive with others. And so and I grew up in a very competitive neighborhood. I was in college doing political science. I had learned about thesis, antithesis, and debating back and forth. And then I lived with Eskimos where you have los como Eskimales, where you have to get along. There's such a, so anytime there's a change, you hear what's going on, you hear what the issue is, but you bring it to the group. And the group for me, for AMI, are the stewards. So I talk to, whenever we have meetings on Saturdays, once a month and once a week to bring towards this conference, it's just to talk to them and hear what they're saying. And if I put on my Quaker hat, I'm just a clerk. I take notes. Oh yeah, I got to do this, got to do that, got to do this. So and I went around, and Lucille knows this. I went, well, in dealing with Zarlanga, he was a very top-down person, and my whole being is sort of the opposite. So he and I would get into interesting conversations around that, and among Eskimos, there was no room for getting upset. You just lived with life. So it's all good. But I noticed those values were well described in this book. If we had more time, I would read some of them to you. But the gentleman who spoke earlier, Eric Maya Joy, he's very familiar with that, and he and I go through that thinking. And he and I have had a number of meals actually with Stephen Zarlanga. So I was trying to bring up my point of view, or pushing Native American values, and I would have Eric at my back, like I have Alfonso at my back for this conference. And so I'm just a part of a team, and we're all working together. So with that, I get to remove myself from the spotlight there. Anyhow, so thank you for your kind words, Lucille. And Lucille, thank you for, you remind me of like a good sister. She always keeps me on track and is very thorough. So I forgot, it was Nick who said you're allowed to comment, or I think it was, so Lucille, you can always comment, and even your questioning, it makes me think. Anyhow, it's all good. So let's go to Joe Polito. Joe, are you there?
I am indeed. I just want to comment on some of the guests. I mean, we had lots of great presentations, but I think it's really advantageous to us to have an Ellen Brown, or Professor Rossi, or Miguel Ordonez, and Christine Desson. I mean, those are faces, that we can put to us, right? I mean, to me, they're all crackerjack type people. They have great credibility, and it's great that every year you have you and Robert managed to acquire such people for the presentations, which the rest of the satellites can be heard, right, and get credibility. Quick question: would you say that Rossi's presentation? I wasn't able to make that one. It's been a while since I was involved. Was his presentation supportive of Jeff's position? As I remember it, Rossi's a guy who kind of thinks that a lot of government spending,
Nick,
shortfalls should be funded from the central bank. Thanks.
Yeah, he would have been very supportive of that, as long as it promotes jobs and real economy.
Right.
And that would be, and he allows banks to do it too. He doesn't mind banks creating credit. Last year he said it, and he stuck with it in his own presentation this year. And Nick was trying to push him with a stick on that. And what I liked about Rossi, though, he gave the best explanation for come as close as you can think to MMT type of proposals, you know, not to worry about the theoretical aspects of, you know, how money is destroyed and you know, Hovart's made that presentation about, and Hovart's accurate. I don't know why MMT has to, it can argue its point without having to get funny on the accounting system.
Yeah.
And Rossi does that. He almost takes like an MMT position, but he won't, I don't think he would go along with at all MMT's accounting. But he likes, you know, the bank credit for the real economy that we disagree with, but you know, I learned things from him anyhow. And so, and maybe, you know, maybe some countries want to do that, but when Zaid was making his comparisons to China, when you have a very strong public system with very little private money creation, you can really move a whole country in you know, together. And so money is extremely important. Once you control money, look what Germany did between the two world wars. So anyhow, it's all good.
I think it was Rita Jacobs who was telling me that she's with the Green Party, and they had an effort by the MMTers to sort of take over their monetary plank. And she was describing all these eccentricities that just baffle everybody. And just,
Yeah.
or, you know, you can say almost the exact same things without any of those kinds of references. I think Ronnie Phelps made that point in one of his presentations, maybe a coffee house presentation.
Right, right. Nick, you had some words to say.
Thank you, Stephen. I forgot a few things. The first thing, my wife and I sit and watch TV and people are interviewed and they're asked a tough question. Thank you for that great question. And I never once said that to thank the people that asked the question. And that was the first thing I told my wife. Whenever anybody asks me a question, I'm going to say, thank you for that great question. I forgot to do that. The second thing is, I did bail out this afternoon for about an hour and 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so.
For a soccer game.
Soccer game, right? Our granddaughter, and they live 50 miles away from us. Our son lives 50 miles away from us. He has 3 kids. Our daughter lives 2 blocks away from us. She has 2. But anyway, I bailed. Kenzie's team was playing in Munster, where we live. They were playing Munster, and she's 9. She's good too. And anyway, they won the game. She got the winning goal, 2-1. And the last thing was, we were requested to bring something of value, I believe, something we valued to place on the table. So I got something right here. Can we see what it is? I gotta turn this off.
The lost science of money.
And this copy has been read and reread, and I've got so many bookmarks in it and underlined it.
Well, we'll put it on our altar. Yeah, okay, and it'll, but we've done that in spirit, and so I'm just wondering, okay, you know, Mike mentioned, well, no need there. Rita, any comments? Roger Elliston. Roger Elliston is in Wyoming, Jackson Hole, and has some interesting ideas about money and society. And maybe sometime he'll be ready to talk about that. And Don or Bruce Wall or Roger, any last comments? Yeah, 6:49. We're already, we're 20 minutes over already. Alfonso's gonna want his pay increase. It's always nice to tease Alfonso. So, and Ronnie Phillips, if Ronnie, if you had anything to say, we'd love to hear that too.
No, I enjoyed. I missed some of the conference, but one of the things that I'm, for various reasons, been sort of involved with is thinking about the modern money theory. And now, again, they start talking about modern monetary theory. I don't know who came up with that term, but that's not the term Randy Ray used. Randy Ray's got a new book out coming out in November, and I'm going to be very interested in looking at that, and then try to think about how to straighten some of this stuff out about the
account
controversies. Well, the thing is, it's some fundamental issues that have been brought up in the conference, and that is, what is money, what is credit? And the way I like to think about it is always, it's the payment system and the credit system. That's what's important. We want, stability of the payment system, and that's the money part. The credit is, extending credit. But I think that's one of the things to think about for the future, and we'll sort of see how it goes. But I think there are some similar ideas. But the other thing, I was going to say that people don't understand the relationship between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. We know sovereign money is the Treasury, but the average person, it's just so confusing, to talk about what is the Federal Reserve, who's creating money, and you get all this stuff about, well, government spending causes inflation. Well, no, I mean, there's just some fundamental issues. Like I say, it's payments and credit, and the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. That's what I like to focus on, to try to get people to understand what's really going on out there. So anyway, but I enjoyed the conference.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. And maybe we can get a declarative statement or something and reflect on it. And I hear what you said about modern monetary theory. I heard Randall Ray also saying that, that was a title put on them, much like the title Quaker was put upon
Exactly.
Quakers. They didn't ask for the term Quakers.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know who came up with that modern monetary theory, but it wasn't Randy Ray.
No, but he felt like he had to accept it, and he did write a book with that title then too.
Yeah, well, his new book uses modern money theory too, so he's not backing down on that. So,
well, that
anyway, it'll be interesting to see what he has to say, given all things, and there's been response to Stephanie Kelton's and all that. So I haven't seen his book. I just know it's coming out.
Okay. Well, if you have a review of it, I'm sure AFJM or AMI, we hope to have a new website, and we're trying to get people to share thinking on it, and it's to continue this dialogue in a place, and I would like to try to create an umbrella so we can have those conversations, and I know you've been right in the middle of it all, Ronnie. So that's the luck to you. Yeah. If someone knows how to walk a fence with all of that, you're very good. Oh, there's this and this.
Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. And I think what might be interesting for an economist, I don't know if you saw Zaid's presentation on Friday. It was, I think Ellen Brown will enjoy that one when she can at some point. And then a very different one was this Bruce Rogers Vaughan, and that was a powerful presentation. And And if I increase Alfonso's pay here, we might get it up on the internet quickly for people to see.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, great.
teasing around. That's what happens when you have half a beer. I only need half a beer to start joking around. So, but thank you, Ronnie, too.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Hey, Bruce Wall, can we pick on you? Are you around? Are you maybe off to a meal with your wife there? I'm forgetting her name right now. I haven't been there yet. Any last thoughts? Last thoughts? I thank all of you, and I said in my little afterward earlier in the day that all of you are I consider all of you my colleagues.
No,
And it's
why was it
just
particularly
working
good?
together. So, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna speak to you in Eskimo now. If I want to say thank you, and thank you in such a way as for participating and being together, it would be called, or the phrase would be Igumsi Kana Halek, which means thank you with your presence being here. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about Eskimo and how the language works for a second. If you say the word hum, and oh, by the way, there was a Dr. Koo from Korea, Young Kim, who worked on, he was a linguist from Korea, and he went to work in the Arctic, and he found relationships between Korean and the Arctic. So it's, you might have had a strong boat culture one day, you know, and that would go back 7,000 years of early contact. That would be probably the most, but anyhow, that would be another conversation. But I'll explain to you a little bit of Eskimo linguistics. If you say hum, like you're pouring a cup of tea and you tell the person to stop, you say one. And in Eskimo, you can say one by just saying hum. But then in all of their words, you can speak the language forwards or backwards. So I'm going to speak it backwards for you right now. So hum is one. And then if you say hum, that means that good enough. And hung nom, that's enough. You know, like, and then if you give it more emphasis, hung nom, that means that's enough. Let's go. So it's just adding postbases, and you can create sentences with them. So I'm gonna send Gabriella up to Eskimo and let her learn some of that maybe. But anyhow, it's all fun. Thank you very much, and it was good. Oh, and I'll say see you later in Eskimo. So
Thanks you all. Bye.
Peter's on.
Okay.
Next to Mom.